So I should probably be pretty honest with the listeners. We're recording on a Friday of the 13th, and we have managed to lose internet connection like 6 times, and my air conditioning is not really working.
I lost my headphones.
You lost your headphones. It's been a lot of like, what is going on? So we're just going to like chuck it up to the cosmic universal rays of this is ridiculous.
Yeah.
But that's okay, because we're humans. We're humans. This is what happens, right? And we're just talking what it was like to be humans and trying to like plan for things and contingency with human things. And
we're resilient.
How do we share legacy knowledge? We're just resilient. We just roll on with it. You know, it's fine. I'll just cry about it in post-op. It's fine. Post-production, I'll just cry. No, I won't. I'll be fine. Welcome back to the Bites and Bytes Podcast. I am your host, Kristin Demoranville, and this is the show where we explore the connections between food, agriculture, technology, cybersecurity, and so much more. Today's episode is about lessons the electrical utility world has already learned and how they matter for farming and food. My guest is Kylie McClanahan. She brings her perspective from years in the electricity sector and connects it straight to agriculture with chicken houses, GPS tractors, rural broadband, and why people, not just the technology, are what make resilience real. You're going to get a lot out of this one, so let's get started. I am excited about this guest because, first of all, she just got a PhD. So we'll talk about that in a few minutes because that's epic. But before we go into introductions or anything, Kylie, what's your favorite food and your favorite food memory? They do not need to be the same thing.
Cool and good because they aren't. My favorite food is sour gummy worms. I have a bag of them. This is my office. I have a snack drawer and one of these giant family-sized bags stays in it.
At all times?
Pretty much at all times. There's a Walmart right below our office because Arkansas. And so when we run out, I just sit upstairs and buy some more.
So that's your dealer. You have a dealer downstairs.
As far as favorite food memory, I would probably have to say, early last year, I went to Kona, Hawaii for an academic conference. Oh, I had to go.
Of course you had to go.
And you had to go present in person. And so my husband and I got to go on a tour of a Kona coffee. I've just forgotten the word.
Plantation. Coffee plantation.
Thank you.
I got you.
Yeah, we got to go on a tour of a Kona coffee plantation, and because of like timing and the time of year, it was like January, so there was nobody else on this tour. And at the end, we got to go roast coffee beans, some Kona beans, and then take them home with us. And that's something I'd never done before is roast coffee. But the guy, rather than like our tour guide going down, 8 to 10 people saying like, here's what you do next, we got like his absolute full focus.
It's awesome.
And I don't think any coffee beans have ever gotten that much attention before. And it was good coffee.
Kona coffee is actually one of my favorite varieties of coffee beans that are on the planet. And I've also had the privilege of going through a coffee plantation in Hawaii. So, but I was in Kauai, not Kona itself.
Oh, nice.
Yes. And I completely understand. It's just something about that place as well that just makes it super magical when it comes to agriculture. And you're the first person who's ever said a beverage as their favorite and a snack as their favorite. So congratulations for being a first here on the show.
Amazing.
I also really like sour things like that. So I completely understand. I am one of those people that has to have Sour Patch Kids in the movie theater. It's great. It's that salty sweet when you have them with the popcorn and stuff. So
absolutely.
I'm big on salty sweet. Yes, that's great. Thank you. And I love Hawaii. So I'm so glad that you get to go.
It's beautiful.
I'd like to go back at some point.
Yeah, that was the first and only time that I've been. And I'm not a swimming person. I'm not a beach person. But it's just beautiful.
You don't even have to be like a beach person or a swimming person to go there because there's so much to do there that's not the beach necessarily.
Yeah.
And especially there's tons of like hiking and let me be honest what I did this was years ago. I ATV'd the day after a rainstorm through all of the through a sugar plantation into a tunnel that opened up into where the opening scene for Jurassic Park was, the first Jurassic Park, the original, the OG. And they have some of like the filming towers are still there. And I was so soaking wet from the amount of mud that was on top of me that like I was like dumping my boot out. It was a lot of things going on with that. Should have brought a change of clothes, kind of gross, but it was, it's quality like Hawaiian mud. It's fine. It probably had some kind of like exfoliating effect. I've also done a helicopter tour around the Seven Sister Waterfalls in Kauai, which is amazing. Wow. If I ever did that again, I would definitely do them without the doors because the doors are cumbersome and they get in the way of, photography. What else have I done? Nepali Coast Tour. And it was a whale watch. And it was the first time you're not really allowed to get close to whales. I think everybody kind of knows that. You got to give them their birth.
Right.
But when you went in January, that's actually calving season. So the babies are there with the mamas and the males are teaching the babies how to like breach and like socialize and stuff like that around them. So I was watching them learn how to breach for the first time, like, I don't know, 1,000 yards in front of me. So of course, naturally, I was weeping.
Oh, cool.
In my guava juice, but like I was really happy. So if you ever go to Hawaii, like these are the experiences you may have. And they're all local driven. So you're definitely pouring into the economy. So it feels really good.
Right.
Lava farm. It was great to go there. The agriculture there alone is epic.
Just incredible.
Yeah. And Kauai also has like wild chickens. It's like Lord of the Flies with chickens all over the place. They don't care. They will stand in your car and try to attack you. So just be prepared. If you're scared of birds, it's not the place for you. But it's such an amazing island. I hope you get to go back because that is so cool. And you went for like an academic thing, which is like pretty badass too. So
it's
great. So why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself to everybody and please make sure you use your full title because you can say you're a doctor now.
I will. I'm Dr. Kylie McClanahan. # not that kind of doctor.
Yes.
I am the CTO of Bastazo. We do remediation management for critical infrastructure. I finished my PhD this past May was graduation, and I am so relieved to be done.
That's got to feel really good. And then you have a background in OT as well, or is it more just computer science related? Walk me through that just a little bit.
Yeah, both. So I grew up in the space, and I do mean that literally. My dad worked for an electric cooperative for 40 years, his entire career.
It's amazing.
And so I grew up in the halls and then went to school, did undergrad, a degree in physics and a degree in computer science. Not really sure which one I wanted to focus on, and then moved into computer science for grad school right at the time that some Department of Energy money was coming in to look at the cybersecurity of power systems. So I joined a project looking at that, particularly in your compliance NERC SIP space. And then we were able to take the research that we had done and commercialize it. And that became Bastazo.
Talk about full circle moments for you. Like you've had so many, and that's so wild. Like, sorry, I always think it's cool whenever I've heard you tell the story. It just like, wow, it's almost like a Cinderella story.
I love it. And like one of the things I like that's really fun about it is like now dad's retired, but I will still go to conferences and people will say McClanahan. That's not a very common last name. And I'm like, are you related to Bob McClanahan? Like, I am his eldest daughter. And so like, it's nice. It's nice to have been able to kind of make my own space, but to also have that connection back.
Dad knows what you do. Like a lot of our parents, it's very hard to explain what we do to them. I can't explain it to my parents. I think it just really flies over their head. Other than they understand it's something to do with civil service and doing the right thing since they came from a firefighter family. So like they get that part, but like the rest of it is like, I don't know what you're doing. And that's okay.
Right. Exactly.
What I think is really cool is you have this really unique lens at looking at OT. And because you have this physics background, and granted that wasn't like your total passion, but you still did it anyways. Computer science, you came from your dad's perspective, because then you already were like kind of pre-learned in a little bit. What has really shaped your approach when it comes to security and like critical infrastructure, especially in these OT environments? Like what do you think is different in the way that you look at it than everybody else does?
Yeah. I think that growing up in a cooperative, especially, not just in a utility, but in a cooperative owned by the members, has really influenced a lot of the ways that I think about and experience the industry, because, everyone has staffing issues. Everyone has budget limitations, right? No matter where you are, no matter how huge your company is, you have a budget. And if you need more, you're going to have to convince someone to give it to you. But when you're in something like a cooperative or a municipality, when increasing budgets is a rate increase, and for cooperatives in rural areas, you're talking a meaningful difference in the ability of your members to meet their monthly bills. And I think you start to look at scarcity of resources in a different way. I would say that the other piece of that, and this partially comes from the physics and partially comes from the upbringing, digging into why and digging into consequences. I was the how and why and in what way. I remember at one point growing up, like, how does the water get into our house? Dad's like, rather than tell me, oh, well, it's the angels pouring a watering can. I don't know. He'd be like, well, it comes from the pumping station. I'd be like, where does the pumping station get it? And so this kind of like cause and effect chain of events became the way that I start to think about things. And I think that's really, really served me well in a lot of what I've done.
I think curiosity for you, I think that's how we really get along so well. And I should be forthcoming with the listeners. I've known Kylie for a bit here, but it's the curiosity that constantly drives me. Like, I really want to understand that. Why is that the way it is? And why aren't we doing it this way? Or what is this? Why does this pipe go this way? What's in this pipe? Like, or I'll be like, wouldn't it make more sense to put something over this way because you don't have to bring a cable across the whole floor? Like, I don't understand. But like these kind of things, like that observation thing, I was also very much the same type of a child. I'm sure I drove everybody crazy. I probably still do.
Yeah.
But I just always wanted to know more and more. Like, what is that? Right. I don't understand. Or if nobody would tell me, I would sit there and try to figure it out. I'm sure you did too. You just stare at it. Like, it's kind of like it's like that puzzle when with kids, like unravel the string, if you will. That's how my brain felt here, tackling all these problems. But I love that because you talked about, it's more about community. And that's kind of what you grab too, is that it's not just one singular organization. It's about the whole system and the systems thinking aspect. And this is, again, why I love us OT people, is we're systems thinkers too, because we have to be, because we know what's going to happen if we don't think in a systems way. But the fact that you brought up community and how important it is to your lens and your worldview when it comes to OT is amazing. And that's exactly what happens in the ag space. It's so much about community. And you know this, you live where you live, and it's very huge agricultural community there. Yes. In fact, I was just talking to a farmer from there a couple days ago. It's very predominantly ingrained in your DNA, very much so.
Right.
And I love that because the community is always first. It's not just like the individual. And I think that's a super important lens to have inside of this entire industry, because it's probably what separates a lot of us from the rest of the groups, because if it's not going to benefit at the whole, then why are we bothering? If it's not. Yeah. And I've heard you talk about this on stage a couple of times, talking about what really matters and all the different alerts that everybody gets, or what should we pay attention to? And I think you called it fatigue. Did I get that correct?
Yeah. Alert fatigue, or even into like decision fatigue.
Oh yeah. Yep.
It's if everything's on fire, nothing's on fire, except not because things are still on fire. But it's not everything can be now. And this comes in so many areas, right? If you're trying to prioritize in your life, you can't do everything right now. If you're trying to prioritize in your job, you can't do everything right now. And it's the same with vulnerability management. There's been a trend just from the sheer number of vulnerabilities published. More of them are going to be marked as critical if we keep the fractions the same. If we see about this percent are critical, we're going to have more of them. And when you get to the point, there was a point where teams could say, even if there was a security team doing vulnerability management, and in a lot of cases, you're lucky if you have that. But even if there was a team, they could say, well, we're going to do the critical CVSS scores, and that's going to be how we prioritize. And then you got to the point that you couldn't handle all the criticals. Okay, so then what do you do? Right. And so I think trying to give people the information that they need to effectively prioritize is a huge part of this process. And it's a lot of what we look to do, kind of in my day to day.
I think I've spent a bit of my career, especially when I was first starting in cybersecurity. I kind of did one of those like IT to OT to security to security to OT. I kind of like jumped around a little bit, but I completely get the fatigue, even as a cyber person, like, and then on top of it, you have to test and verify. But how do you test and verify all of these criticals?
Exactly. And on top of that, you have to constantly be vigilant for 0 days. And so there's so much pressure on an individual security analyst or practitioner, whatever your title is, there's so much pressure on you to get it right. And from the electric sector side, when you bring in compliance and you say, hey, if you miss one, not only is that more risk, you now have a violation. It burns people out.
That's so much. I mean, I understand like creating severity around things to make sure stuff gets it's done. Like I understand regulation for that aspect, but I can understand these utilities don't have full staffs. They have small staff. So you can't expect one person or a group of four to just do this all the time. That's stressful as hell. Like I couldn't imagine that.
Like, it's interesting to look at it from, you can see the electric industry compared to other industries, and you can see that the bar is higher because the regulations required it.
Yes.
And I also know from riding in the car with Dad exactly how excruciating the implementation was. And some of that, there's a lot of my minutia. One of the things about the SIP standards is that they're industry written, federally approved, but industry written. But even then, you have your cooperatives and your municipalities, and you have your investor-owned utilities who are often much larger. And so you have, even within the industry written, you have these competing or almost at odds in motivations of tell me exactly what to do so I can request budget for it versus tell me the outcomes and let me figure it out myself. And so you get this kind of mix of both in the actual outcome where neither side really gets what you wanted. And a lot of utilities have found their ways to manage it. Some are sustainable, some are not. And there's a lot of things that have gotten better over the past decade, but the problem still stands. It's still an issue.
Quick pause for today's episode. And first, I would like to thank you for spending your time here with me. If you're enjoying the conversation, the best way to support the show is simple. Give it a follow, leave a quick review, or share it with someone you think should hear it. And thank you to everyone who's sent a message or come up to me at a conference to say you listened to the show. I'm honestly still very much blown away by all the support, and those moments fuel me to keep this show going. I love hearing from you, and I appreciate it when you take a minute to stop by and chat or send me a message. All right, let's get back to the episode. Agriculture is not regulated when it comes to cybersecurity.
Right.
I've often, and I know people have tried, they've raised bills up, people have had conversations, and I appreciate the effort. I'm never going to not say thank you for trying,
Yeah.
Like, what I do think we should take a lesson from the industries that are heavily regulated, like electricity, like automotive, oil and gas, to take a beat on what's working for them and what's not. And because farming in general, or agriculture in general, is in this weird kind of evolving state now where we need more first gens, we are bringing tech in, we're doing all this other stuff.
Right.
Where do we create regulations that aren't going to hinder the farmer any more than they're already being hindered? Because trust and believe, there's so much pushback right now in certain sectors of the world. We need to reach these sustainability goals, and we have to chuck more technology at it. Here you go, farmer, go do this stuff. Toodaloo.
Right.
Kind of thing. And I'm worried about that.
Yeah. So in being in Arkansas, not just the home of Walmart, but the home of Tyson. So if you go drive around where I'm at, you'll see a lot of chicken farms. My first Sans ICS, there was a practical demonstration. They were showing how you could get into a device and essentially enable security features to lock out the intended user. The scenario they were posing was a chicken that you could lock them out of the atmosphere
Just
controls.
the environmental controls. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. And they, to drive this point home, they put Peeps in a toaster oven and turned it on.
Stop.
And so there was, in the conference, there was a video feed on the Peeps and a video feed on them and a video feed of them sharing their screen. And so they were like, these Peeps were just charred. The whole place smelled like burnt sugar. But I'm going to be honest, it worked. I still remember it. And just
wild.
Thinking about like the people who run these chicken farms are not IT experts, much less OT experts, much less cybersecurity. And how do you go to all of your, if you're Tyson, your individual chicken farmers, you need to be concerned about this.
So interesting that you bring up that, because I know that Tyson's is very proud of the fact that they've digitally transformed and all of their chicken houses are being remotely monitored and managed, which in your brain and my brain, we both went, no, I mean, that's cool, but oh no, like,
right.
And I also, nobody's really been able to answer this question for me. So if anybody knows anybody, please let me know. Were they given 5G repeaters, or are they going off of the barn or the house Wi-Fi? Like, where's the connection to the internet here? Or is it some type of a satellite link? Nobody's been able to explain that to me. And granted, maybe it's like secret safe information. I don't know. But
yeah,
to me, if it's attached to the house, what if you have a 15-year-old kid that's playing like PlayStation? that throttles at all ridiculous hours. And
there's still a lot of Arkansas that doesn't have stable broadband access. There was a program that got canceled not long ago that was intended to increase broadband service in Arkansas and other rural areas that now is left in the lurch. And so even if it's attached to the home Wi-Fi, what bandwidth do they actually have? It's not gigabit.
No, and I completely hear this. And I think everybody at some point should have an experience in a rural area with internet, because it's really like humbling and reminds you what it was like when dial-up was around.
Yes.
I was living in Kentucky and I had to use the cell phone tower connection essentially, and it was abysmal.
Right.
But I will say that it was definitely an experience of learning how to be more tolerant of things, and streaming was like out of the question for the most part when it came to TV and all that stuff. So I think people take for granted the internet because a lot of us live around cities, but these farms don't have access to the internet as fast as people think they do. So what's concerning to me is how do they have access to it and when do they have access to it? Because that is going to be something a hacker would be looking for as well, or any bad actor or nation state or whoever wants to mess with. And then the tractors that are out there running autonomously are using satellite signal. Has anybody verified that the software updates are okay? I mean, we've already learned from Microsoft and CrowdStrike last year that maybe that's not a good idea.
Yeah.
That scares me.
Yeah. When you pair this with a general, I don't know how this is manifesting in the ag space, but with a general consumer trend of like your car door is no longer manual. It's a button that sends a digital signal to open the door, and there not being a, quote unquote manual override. If you no longer have that signal, are you left with a very expensive brick? Can you still use your tractor if you can't get satellite signal? I would sure hope so.
Yeah, you just have to listen to the beeping. Basically, is what it is. And it's funny because I've had this conversation with several farmers, and they literally say, if my GPS tractor's not working, it's beeping at me, I'm still going anyways. Like, they don't care. They got to get it done. It's too bad. It's one of those things. Well, I got to go. The gas light might be on, but I got to go. And I think precision farming is cool because I'm a geek. I like tech. I think it's interesting, but not at the expense of the people that have to purchase these ridiculously expensive things and then have to figure out how to use them. Who's going to train the median average farmer who's like, between 58 and 63 to do this? No, I could see a total middle finger up and like, I do what I want, don't tell me what I don't need to know. But then you have something that happened like last year. And I don't know if you knew about this, Kylie, the solar flares that hit last year that knocked out the GPS in Canada and the Midwest.
Yes.
And took out the tractors during harvest season.
I did hear about that.
Yeah. And so I bring this up because everybody's like, it's not a cyber event. I'm like, but it could be mimicked because we know how hackers are. They'll just do whatever they got to do. It can be mimicked. If something happens in nature, we'll figure out how to exploit it on a human level. And I'm worried about what that means on a large scale, because imagine that if all the tractors are rendered and able to work, that would be really bad. That would be really bad. Or if there was one particular attack that wiped out the chicken houses in one state or one region, that's bad too. Or, whatever. They could turn up the feed levels. They could do all kinds of things to these chickens. It's like that hack that happened in North Carolina. The guy who got into the OT system for the chemical spray for the cleaning. Oh, yeah. Yes. And then he actually went in and manipulated. He was a previous employee, and his offboarding was bad, of course, because again, small staffs or too much turnover. You can't catch everybody. I'm not making excuses, just reality here.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't want chemicals in chicken. Thanks. I don't want the chemicals that are bad in my chicken.
Chemicals. Right. Everything is chemicals, but not those chemicals, please.
Yeah. And I really think that these little things that have been coming up more and more lately, I've noticed that everybody sends me stuff. They're like, Chris, did you see this? Did you see this thing that happened? And I'm like, yes, I have a Google alert, but I don't want to be rude about it. I got a Google alert. I know it happened. But at the same time, it's like, I'm really excited that people are excited about incidences that are happening because they're aware of them now. So you can tell a friend to tell a friend. Right? Have you had anything like that with you and your side with the energy space?
The Spain and Portugal disruption, the number of questions. Yeah. It's cyber. Oh, it's cyber. No, okay, listen, we don't know. It's too soon. It's too soon. Oh, it's cyber. Okay, let's take a deep breath. And it does look very much like it was an operational. There was not a cyber component. I think there is and has been and continues a tendency to say if we see an operational disturbance in energy or otherwise, oh, it's cyber. And I think to some degree, it starts to reveal the level of baseline anxiety that is there in general. You said, about the tractors, if we see this, well, could someone mimic it in a cyber sense?
I don't see why not, but I don't know the likelihood of it, but it feels like it could be mimicked. That's something that...
Right. And, I don't personally have data to say, like, is this an increase in things, or are we more aware? When you talk about like diagnoses, this chain of thought comes up a lot. It's like, do we actually have more people with autism, or are we better at recognizing the signs of autism?
Yeah.
And I think you can see something similar with cyber events. The companies that publish the most advisories doesn't necessarily mean they're the most insecure. Maybe they're the best at looking. Siemens is a great example. They publish a lot of stuff. And if you go by numbers, you'd say, what is going on with Siemens devices? They're looking. I think it's the same with, to some degree, with incidents. That, people are starting to recognize this is a problem. They're looking for signs, and they're finding stuff, because there are things to be found. But I can't be upset about a greater awareness that there are threats.
I will never be upset at the general public for being curious. It's just where they take that curiosity that becomes my problem. But
true.
It's just, and you made me think about it when you're talking about Spain and Portugal, that when the incident happened in Heathrow Airport with the transformer, and everybody's like, it's a cyber incident. And we're like, no, stop. Are you watching too much sci-fi? Like, that's what I wanted to say to people. Like, I understand that you would like maybe think that, or it's a terrorist attack immediately, because that's where everybody runs to. But right. I remember talking, and we're both part of Beer ISAC, and it was the whole thread on that was like, people need to calm down. Like, just take it, go touch some grass, take it easy. It's okay. We don't need to get twisted up about this, because right now we don't know what's going on. And I think this is the thing that's the most important that I've noticed lately is people want to jump on the bandwagon of an incident or whatever's happening really fast. And then they spread more disinformation about it, or they let their emotions run with it. And I don't like talking about active instances that are happening. I want to wait till there's at least some kind of report that comes out, or the company has officially filed their SEC that says I don't want to talk about it beyond that, because what happens is people just start panicking. Yeah. And you know this as well as I do. You and I work in a space or spaces that are very big, very, very big. And they change a lot, and they grow and they evolve, and they're adapting, and they're getting through stuff because it's critical infrastructure, and that's what has to happen. You explain the one incident has affected the whole in terms of like, I'm thinking about disruptions in supply chain. The supply chain is ginormous. We have done this to ourselves. It is the most complicated system on the planet. And I'm not just talking about the food side. I'm talking about just generally supply chain. And if someone says that they're a supply chain expert, I always am like, well, which aspect? Because that's really big. That's really big. Yeah. Are you okay? Like, that's my next thought. Are you okay? Like, do you have a headache? Do you want something to drink? Like, what's going on?
Right. Do you need to lie down?
Yeah. So I guess what I'm wondering is, do you think in that there's like some blind spots? Like, are we not covering all our bases well within certain sections? Because like your industry is important to the food and ag industry as much as water is important to both of us, right? As transportation is, the things are, we're all interconnected. Is there any blind spots or overlooked risks you think that's repeatedly happening a lot more now? You've named like too much security awareness, like overly done security awareness. That is maybe a risk.
Yeah. So I think when last summer, I was up in Idaho with Virginia Wright Ginger at Idaho National Labs and some others in industry and academia. And we were talking about CIE, Cyber Informed Engineering, which is one of the programs that INL does. Yes. We were talking about taking CIE principles and getting them into 2 and 4 year education programs. So if you're looking at a technical or like associate's degree, and you're going to be, if you're going to be a technician, how do we start thinking about cybersecurity and cyber informed engineering as part of that? That's and great. One of the days we got on a bit of a tangent, but when don't we? And we were talking about up and downstream effects. I think there's a tendency across industries to be like, we are the most important one, kind of like among the natural sciences, like, well, everything is physics. Well, everything is chemistry. Well, everything's actually.
Right. I've hung out with those nerds. It's really difficult to listen to that sometimes.
But the thing, like, if the power goes out, it's going to cause consequences across the board. What if you're a power company and the water goes out? Can you cool your plant? because the inability to get water and the inability to cool your plants then impacts your ability to produce power. So like thinking about not just if we have a problem, who do we notify, which is an absolutely critical part of response planning. How do the hospitals have backup generators? Do we have things on, and I'm going to forget the term, it's going to be really embarrassing, like critical paths, critical circuit, but also thinking about what are our upstreams? Because if there is a food shortage, is that going to impact our personnel who then come and run the plants? Yeah. And thinking not without catastrophizing, without spinning into like, and the whole world is ending and there's zombies. Saying like, how do we start to handle this? How do we plan for things that aren't our fault, but cause us problems regardless?
The fact that you're even thinking about workers and how they have to probably go on 24 to 48 to 72 hour shifts and have to be fed and watered and at least have a little rest.
Yeah.
is really important in business continuity planning. And I think we forget about that. I was having a conversation with a farmer the other day and he was telling me about his workers. He grows a lot of tomatoes. And I was like, and me being ignorant because I'm, a podcast host, I'm trying to lighten it up a little bit. I said, I really love the smell of tomato vines. I do. I think they smell really fresh. It's nostalgic. I think of my grandfather. That's basically the end of it.
Yeah.
So he goes, they're poisonous, right? Like a nightshade plant. I said, yes, I did know that. And he goes, and you understand, they cause rashes on people's arms that pick them. So he's actually looking at incident response and business continuity to help his workers not be sick from picking tomatoes. And my first thought was, well, why would they put gloves on? But then I'm like, oh my goodness, they harvest in the middle of summer. That would be awful. That would be, I mean, they might have like little gloves on, but like not like big honking, like up to your arms. Yeah. And then, so he's thinking about, creating, using drones a little bit more often, especially when it comes to like things like watering and stuff like that. And I thought we really do a lot of stuff in OT, especially around factories and productions and things like that, where the equipment is actually created for employee safety over, everything else. Yeah. And I keep thinking about how do we build that into our business continuity? Do we build that in our incident response planning about the people? And then I had to think about it because he definitely got me thinking about it. And you just made me think about it again, that I don't think we really do. I think we just kind of focus on the equipment and like uptime, but to hell, we got to get this up so everybody's on board. And so what if you pass out because you're starving to death? You know what I mean? It's almost like some of these companies need to find out where the warehouses are before they go to the grocery stores, where all that food is stored, and have some kind of like contingency plan put into place in case something does go down. Or what happens if there's actually a local disaster and like a tornado, a hurricane, a train derailment? I mean, I'm named things that have happened recently. And like what happens? Do we know? Because again, as a good friend of mine, Kyle, points out all the time that when disasters happen, they're local. They're not regional and countrywide and global. They're local first, and they always will be local in a critical acute sense. So that's really good shout out, Kylie.
Yeah. Well, and like one of the things that I love about the electric utilities and the cooperatives is mutual aid.
Yes.
If there's, even before something's hit, if there's plans for a hurricane and you drive on an interstate, you're going to see caravans of bucket trucks heading for the planned strike zone here for response. And it's not, it's not we got to go out to have another hurricane. Why do people live in North Carolina? It's okay. Let's buckle up.
Don't care. Got to put my boots on. I'm going.
They have hurricanes. We have tornadoes. They came to help us.
Yep. It's kind of like, it reminds me a lot about when I was a kid. I grew up in New England. So northeasters, storms, snowstorms, whatever. I'm not afraid of them. They're there. It's part of life. I remember you always knew when there was a storm coming, even if you didn't catch the news, because the plows would be sitting on the highway, ready to go on the on-ramps, completely loaded with salt, ready to go and to start preemptively striking. And then I move outside of New England and nobody knows how to deal with snow, except for like the Midwest. They're okay. They got their stuff together. But I remember my first time really being in like Virginia, and it was like, what are you doing? Why you don't salt then shovel? Like, it was just like, what are you doing? They're throwing salt on top of the snow. And I'm like, I don't understand. And then there was a running joke that I needed to run like a snow removal course for people who are not from, and I was like, I'm not teaching people how to shovel snow. It's not going to happen. But watching people deal with their snow is one of the funniest things I'd like to do in the winter. And I'm not, no disrespect to anybody who lives in the South. I also I was in Atlanta during the snowstorm that shut everything down. And it took me an hour to get home when it was only like 4 miles away. Like, hello.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. It's
my husband spent part of his childhood in Colorado. And I've Arkansas born and raised. And so he does get a hoot of watching our neighbors slip and slide on any snow. It's so avoidable. And that's the thing. But it goes back to the point of, do you think those guys are upset for being in the cabs of those plows? I mean, they might be a little irritated, but they're making money. They're making a lot of money plowing. And everybody I knew had a plow. My dad plowed, like it's just part of the job. Like people need to get out. People need help. They just go. Right.
And we need more of that.
There was a plant in Arkansas, and I can't remember exactly when. There was a plant in Arkansas that had to shut down for a while. So they, had to lay off the staff of the plant. But a few years later, they were ready. They were in a spot that they could reopen it. And they went back to the employees and said, listen, if you no pressure, but we would like to offer you, before we go to anybody else, we'd like to offer you the job that you had back.
Smart of them.
Most of them came back. And that's, I can wax poetic about the cooperative model, but I think even outside of cooperatives, you can build an environment where you treat your employees well and with dignity, and you plan for business continuity around your employees' needs. I remember Megan Samford and the ICS for ICS, the Incident Command System for Incident Control Systems, which I can't believe I said correctly. Go me. I remember at S4 one year, they were talking about, they were kind of doing a tabletop walk through it. And she or one of the other people walking through it was like, and someone's in charge of ordering pizza. And I was like, I would never have thought and someone's job needs to be, they can have other roles too, but their job needs to be, and it's time to order food.
Yeah. I mean, now that I think about it, the first breach I experienced as a leader was on a Friday late afternoon, and we were stuck there for a while. And I don't think anybody ordered food until someone was like, I got to order food. It was
right. I'm starving.
I want to say it was like one of the VPs just had it and couldn't do it anymore. And it was getting grumpy and said, he's like, I'm bored of getting a Twix kind of moment, but I was
not you when you're hungry.
I mean, I didn't get home too late that night, thank God, because there wasn't much to do, thankfully, in that situation. But the ones that you have to be there for days because you got to unravel, like the pipeline is an example, or granted, yes, there's a lot of debate on that one, but it's an example.
Yeah.
Can't imagine if there was an incident that created a food safety incident that led to a foodborne or a recall. I would fully expect the OT security teams and the security teams to be right alongside those teams helping out if it was in that regard.
Yeah.
Are they part of that business continuity situation? I hope so. I know the food defense teams put us as part of it, so that's good news. But I think there's so many things it's about a mindset though. It's about getting we just really talked about this. It's really about a mindset about what we need to do to protect the critical assets, which includes the people, because they're critical too, especially that tribal legacy knowledge. I know you know what I'm talking about because there's someone that's been there for 40 years and they know how to hit something with a wrench and it just fixes it magically. Yeah. And then when they walk away, it's over, and so it was really good on that company to hire back those workers because that's legacy knowledge coming back in.
It is.
That's something that I'm interested to see what's going to happen. But again, with that mind shift, do you think that there's some fundamental changes that need to happen other than add employees into those situations within our realms of critical infrastructure? And I realize that's a really loaded question, especially right now when we have a lot of uncertainty in our country specifically with what's actually going to happen. And we're not going down a political road. We just don't know we don't know yet.
Right. Right. It's obviously, I agree with you. It's a huge question, but I'll tell you, I'll continue our thread of institutional knowledge, and I'll make a small scale analogy in that I am by no means comparing myself to a power plant, but I have a team of developers. I've been working on this since we started the research. There's a lot of the knowledge about, well, why did we set up this code this way? Why did we choose to do something like X that has been in my head? Because when have I had the time to write it down? And one of the lessons that I have been learning for myself as a, professional growth and personal growth is how do I build time into my life to get institutional knowledge out of my head? I don't think this is a personal problem. I think it's a structural problem, but I'm making an analogy here. For me, the method has been, I just call it brain dumping, where I just, whether I'm talking to someone or just out loud, record myself and then have the transcript of what I said.
Hi, we're Anns and Sage. And if you're in food production, agriculture, and even running a zoo or an aquarium, we need to talk. Because let's be honest, your operation relies on a lot more technology than most people realize. Grain dryers, hatchery controls, life support systems for animal habitats, all connected, all critical, all often overlooked when it comes to cybersecurity. That's where we come in. At Anns and Sage, we help industries that grow, feed, and inspire the world manage cybersecurity and operational risks without the fear tactics, the fluff, or the 200-page audit you'll never read. Whether you're producing milk, processing seafood, or running life support systems, we focus on what matters, keeping your operations safe, your people protected, and your business running, even when things go sideways. And hey, we know not everyone on your team speaks cyber. And because not everyone on your team speaks cyber, we've created a free resource library at annsandsage.com. Inside, you'll find sector-specific infographics built for teams in agriculture, seafood, zoos, and aquariums. They're clear, practical, a little witty, and designed to help frontline teams understand the risks without needing a translator. No logins, no email required, no catch, just usable tools that make cybersecurity stick. If you're responsible for keeping food moving, animals safe, and systems online, Anns and Sage is your partner in real-world resilience. Visit annsandsage.com to download your free infographics, book a consult, or just learn more about how we're helping critical infrastructures secure what matters most. Anns and Sage, helping the industries that grow, feed, and inspire the world manage cybersecurity and operational risks.
So we're going to go through a bit of a wrap up here. This has been such a cool conversation because even though we weren't totally focused on like food and agriculture, we were definitely focused on critical infrastructure.
Yes.
I love learning new things and you gave me so many things to think about. So thank you for that.
Same.
Because that helps me when doing it as a podcaster because I don't want to do this if I don't learn something because I learn with the audience. So that makes it fun for me. And so I do appreciate it. So if you had an opportunity to shift mindset of anyone about critical infrastructure, and what's like the one fundamental change that you would help them shift their mindset on? And I know that's a loaded question, and that's why it's for last.
Yeah, I'm going to give a little bit. It's a cop-out answer. It's a real answer. It's just not necessarily an implementable one. And I would say that passion is everything. When we talk about critical infrastructure and you see careers in the decades and you see people who have hopped between organizations but have stayed in the industry, go to a conference and you go talk with folks at a Beer ISAC meetup. You see a lot of community and you see a lot of passion. I think that when we talk about future threats, when we talk about what's coming, there's education to be done, obviously. There's ways to improve. Of course, we can always raise the bar. But I think that, people talk about humans being the weakest link. And to some degree, I understand. But I think they're also your strongest line of defense. Mm-hmm. And the best way to strengthen that is to give them a cause and to give them a mission and to give them passion. And I think that starts with treating your employees well. And I think that's something that is overlooked in a lot of this. And we've hit on that more than once, community and resiliency. But I think it's a big one.
I think that is so spot on personally. And I've said this on air on many shows, not just mine, but I think the operational technology security professionals, we're the best niche inside of cybersecurity because honestly, it's not about the data for us. It's about safeguarding lives, right? That's a mission that fuels us. What can I do to make sure everybody goes home safely to their families? What can I do to make sure that this company is standing because the employees are still here? Equipment can be rebuilt, a building can be fixed, but having to call someone and say, hey, this cyber incident and it costs people's lives, I don't want to be in the receiving end of that, nor do I want to give that phone call out. And I think a lot of us think about that as we go through. And it's not just because some of us wear hard hats and steel-toed boots. Like some of us do, some of us don't. Or, the fact that I've got dirt on my pants visiting a farm or whatever. I think that it's about the industries that we serve and why we serve them. Yeah. And we all are really geeky, passionate about whatever division we're in. We really are. Yes. We're total nerds. But we don't, what I love about it is we can all still sit together and still have a common conversation. Like we're having today. I'm not an expert in electrical. I don't know NERSC SIP. I will throw my hand up, but I don't need to know it. I just need to know it exists. I don't need to know anything more than that. But I also know that if I have a question, I can go ask it, and that's fine. And there's community in it. And it's not like, oh, you don't know that, you're such a loser. It's not that, it's not like typical cybersecurity shenanigans. And that's something I love about our community. And I love our humor. And I love just the joy we all give each other. And I think that's the point, right? You have to find your people, find your tribe, whoever says that all the time, I forget. But that's really what it comes down to. And it doesn't necessarily have to be like something super organized like Beer ISAC or whatever. I do love hanging out with the water people because they're my people too, I get so excited about what they do for their profession and how it impacts what I do. And then they get excited about what I'm doing because I advocate for them in wherever space I'm in. And it just creates this like positivity bubble, which I really feel, especially with what we deal with, because we are dealing with life and death. There's no question about it. Like it's very serious, but we have a good time. And we have this just really clicked in sense of purpose and empathy. And I think that's what drives us in a different way in terms of mindset, is that empathy for others. And you've said it multiple times in different ways while we've been talking. So for me, I cannot agree more that that's where we're at. And because that community is so strong, and we need to, because we really go through stuff that, I've seen some things, I know you have too, that have definitely left an impression on my soul. And I'm not being over dramatic by saying that. It really has. Or I've heard stories from others that have impacted me just as much, especially now that I've claimed my niche as the last few years. I hear more stories now that make me so proud to be part of OT. But at the same time, we've got a long way to go to make sure that all the critical infrastructures are represented at least in a somewhat of a balanced way, because right now there's too much money in certain ones that it should be in other places. And we could get on a whole thing on that alone. But ultimately, I think that the people that are out there are doing the best they can. And the people who are in these industries need to work and tell us more of their stories. And I'm not talking about like your story of how you got to your job. Tell us what you do. That's a story, and I think if we can get more of that conversation going, we can build better plans around that for people and help them, to be able to do what they do for as long as they can without any fear of safety concerns. I think that's what I love about this the most, is the community. And thank you for reminding me about that again today, because Friday the 13th can get a little weird. So we've definitely had that moment. Yeah, it's been a weird week, but I don't lose faith in humanity because of the OT teams that are around me. I know that we're all trying to do the right things, and that's what's really matters a lot to me. Kylie, thank you so much for being here. Before we close off, anything? Of course, you're welcome back anytime. Do you want to close us out? Anything you want to say before we blast off here for the weekend?
Yeah. Well, I feel like I have to give come check out what we're doing at Bastazo, looking at particularly remediation management, looking at what you can do. It's something I do really enjoy doing, and I'm always down to talk about it. But it's been absolutely a joy to be here. Love talking with you. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. And all your contact information, your company's information will be below, but please reach out. Yes. She literally will answer your messages. She's not one of those people that will be like, oh, who are you? Why are you messaging me?
Find me on LinkedIn, send me an email.
Don't be a stalker. Thanks, Kylie.
Thanks. Have a good one.
That's it for today's episode of the Bites and Bytes podcast. Massive thanks to Kylie for sharing her insight, wisdom, and for all of you for listening. If this episode got you thinking, the best way to support the show is to like it, comment, share, and subscribe. It helps get those stories in front of more people who need to hear them. Awareness is key to creating a more resilient food and agriculture sector. Stay safe, stay curious, and we'll see you on the next one. Bye for now.